They're the Sex Pistols, the British punk rock group that began their first American concert tour last night in Atlanta. And Jack Perkins was there.
The publicity that preceded the Sex Pistols to America said they spat on audiences, vomited on stage, sang of anarchy. Those were the things that had made them famous. And here they are, at least two of them in a hotel room in Atlanta, waiting for the other two to do a promised interview. But they're in a strange mood, flaky, demanding they be paid $10 before they'll do any bleep-bleep interview. Denied that, they stomp off. Bleep, they say. Whether naturally or calculatedly so, the four young men are outrageous. They are also vile and profane. This is a hotel room they used here in Atlanta. A hotel employee who left after being insulted muttered, "Who would pay to see them?" When the four young men left, their spit was on the carpet, their butts on the floor, the dregs of an afternoon's beer and booze, and a couple of emptied boxes of Clearasil. They left the hotel to go to a sex devices store and then to their first concert in America. First, let it be reported the concert was a sellout. Second, notice that the concert hall only holds 500. Annette Funicello singing a medley from beach blanket movies could fill that hall. The kinds of people the Sex Pistols attracted? All kinds. All kinds. Some aficionados of the raucous rebellion that is called punk rock. Punk began in Britain. This, the first big British punk band to come to America to see if it can happen here. Well, this is it. Punk. The Sex Pistols. The lead singer, actual name John Lydon, stage name Johnny Rotten. Bassist, called Sid Vicious. Others, straight names, Steve Jones, Paul Cook. Lyrics that may cry of anarchy, but as here rendered, screeched, who could tell? I just think that's all I need. What I need? I'm a lazy sod. I'm a lazy sod. Again, attention on the punks who come to hear punk. Putting safety pins through the cheek is chic. Impression of Johnny Rotten. In the pallor of his skin and the haunted stare of his eyes, he looks like a reincarnated Gary Gilmore. Impression of the music. It is inexpressibly loud, totally unmelodic, primal, driving. It is as ugly as the young men make themselves. But these are my impressions. After the concert, we got some other people's.
It was good.
Fantastic.
Vicious and rotten.
Did you like it?
They were good.
They were hot.
Real hot.
The fact that
They did. Minor.
No, they're not half as hardcore as people really expected. I mean, America was so scared to let them into the States. There's nothing to be scared about. I mean, Johnny Rotten, you know, it's just another band.
Here's the man whose record company has signed the group, the Sex Pistols, in America.
I think that the punk rock, if you want to call it that, call it new wave, is a valid statement. It's going to grow.
Here's a man from another record company.
There's a case of an act and management and intelligence behind an act, brilliantly utilizing the media, cashing in, if not creating, a whole hype for itself. And I use the word hype in the best sense of the word. An identification, a personality, a stance, whether it's sincere or theatrical, I couldn't say. They've done it brilliantly. I think they're going to succeed very, very well. Whether that changes everything, because ultimately what people are saying, will this be the same kind of big change in music, fashion, the arts, ideology, the way people live their lives, as were caused by the Beatles and the Stones and the acts that happened in the late 60s? I don't think so. I think that change has already taken place.
Well, what more can be said? In the past, there have been groups who were shocking and outrageous enough to get attention. Elvis Presley, the Beatles themselves. And they lasted because they had the musical worth to last. Well, Johnny Rotten and the Sex Pistols are outrageous enough to get attention, and that's about all that's been proved so far. Jack Perkins, NBC News, Atlanta, Georgia.
As I understand it, however, the fellows were surprisingly tame in performance, where they performed for 45 minutes. About the most disgusting thing they did, Johnny Rotten, like, blew his nose on stage a lot, and people in the audience paid $3.50 for the privilege of seeing it.
In their home country of Great Britain, they were banned from the BBC earlier this year when we were there covering the Silver Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth because of a song that they were singing that was very popular at the time, high on the charts. People were listening to it and buying the records. It was called God Save the Queen and Her Fascist Regime. That was one of them. I know a man who owns a rock...
Doo-dah.
Right, doo-dah, doo-dah. I know a man who owns a rock club in London, and he says it is a real dilemma for him because punk rock has become popular among his clientele of young people, and yet when they book a punk rock group of one kind or another, they can count on sheer mayhem. And so what he did was just throw them out of the club when they began to make outrageous demands and bust up the furniture and pour beer on the customers and so on. I think this very group, in fact. You may wonder why we, if they are so disgusting, as Jane so aptly put it, why we put them on the air. Well, it is one of those phenomena that come along from time to time, and whether we paid any attention to them or not, they would probably get an audience as they did last night and attention as they have for almost a year now in their own country. And it did become embroiled in United States Immigration Services because they were denied a visa originally about whether or not they could come here and perform.
You got to figure we might have saved somebody in our viewing audience $3.50.